Hey everyone, so today I'm going to talk to you about lasting effects of childhood sexual abuse, and I have personal experience with this. I'm someone who grew up being molested from the time I was about 4 or 5 until I was about 9, and it's taken me a long, long time to be able to get to this place where I feel like I can talk about it without just breaking down and having those feelings, all of those negative feelings, just completely bombard me and overwhelm me. So I wanted to give you guys a very personal glimpse or idea of things that I have noticed from my own life that have been psychological, lasting effects of childhood sexual abuse. And if you are someone who has experienced this, my heart goes out to you. And also, everyone's different. People may not experience the same things, but I feel that every time I open up about my story, other people who share their story with me also have, we have these similarities or some things that are just very closely tied together. But this is just me talking about my own personal experience. So if you find this helpful, and if you're able to, if it's safe for you to, open up in the comments section down below, because I find that a lot of people can be pretty helpful down there as well. So let's go ahead and get into it. This is in no particular order. The first thing that is pretty obvious, I think, is depression. And this is something that I didn't realize I had for years and years and years until a psychologist told me, or a psychiatrist told me about it. She basically just pointed it out, just flat out. She's like, "How long have you been depressed?" And I was like, "Well, it happened a few months ago." This is like over a year ago now. But she's like, "No, when did you start being depressed?" And then it just kind of hit me in the face in that moment. And I realized I had been about maybe 13 or younger, and I didn't even realize it. This is why I think it's important to talk about mental health openly and honestly, because it helps you, the more we dive into this topic, I mean, it really is like Pandora's box. Like, it could just keep going. Or maybe a can of worms would be a better way of putting it, but Pandora's box is also pretty fair. When I was 13 years old, I told my parents that I had been molested by a family member. And I remember my parents being very upset, my brother being upset, but my extended family did not support me at all. Like, they didn't have my back. They protected my abuser over me, and it ended up just tearing the whole family apart. So that brings me to the next point, which is I have some very deep trust issues. I have basically put myself in a bell jar, if you will. People can see me. I can show myself to people at a distance, and that's about it. What I mean by that is ever since I was a little girl and I was abused by a family member, someone I trusted, someone I loved and cared for, someone I wanted to protect who didn't protect me. Ever since then, I've been very good at keeping people distant. Everyone in my life distant from me. This goes with friends, this goes with family. I mean, everybody. Acquaintances, I love meeting people and getting to know people, but it's very, very hard for me to get close to anyone. And that's something I'm still working on. It's something I've only recently realized over the past year or so. When I make friends with people, it's very surfacey. I only have a few people in my life I would consider very, very close. And it's also hard for me to open up and not be guarded. And in a sense, I take that back, because on one hand, I can be very open. Obviously, you guys, if you watch my YouTube videos, I've been very open online. I can just be open, but it's hard for me to connect with people, I guess. There's just this trust barrier of thinking everyone who I get close to is just going to hurt me. So it's like a protective thing that I do, of just being friendly and being open, but not being able to get close to people. Growing up, I didn't feel safe anywhere, and that's taken me a long time to feel like I can be safe somewhere. But that was definitely something that happened to me when I was younger, is nowhere felt safe. Not being in my own home, not being in a family member's house, not being at school, when I used to go to church, everywhere felt dangerous. I just was constantly looking over my shoulder. Especially when it comes to being one-on-one with someone, it's still hard for me. A coping mechanism that I have grown up with is dissociation. So that's fun. When I was younger, I think this is something I did during the abuse and going out of my body as a way of protecting myself, protecting my sanity, because I didn't want to be there when it was happening, of course. This sounds so obvious, but growing up that way, this is something I've tried to learn how to handle now when I get stressed or worried or when I feel threatened or anything. Like, it's very easy to dissociate again. And if you guys want to hear me speak more about that, I have a separate video on how to stop dissociating. So I'll put that down below. But dissociative patterns, when I used that as an escape during the abuse, it became a habit. It's something I just instinctively did and still do sometimes. Also, when I was younger, I remember I didn't want any attention from men. Like, I was really fearful of men. I didn't want handshakes. I didn't want hugs. I didn't want them to look at me. I wanted to completely be invisible. I would say ignored. I mean, I absolutely hated attention from men, and it made me so angry. That's another thing, but I feel like that has really toned down. There's this thing I do where I put men, even now, in two separate categories. I realize I do it, so here are the categories. 1, this person is a threat. I don't feel comfortable around this person. He's dangerous. Or this person has been placed in my imaginary shelf, and he's a teddy bear. He seems safe. He seems like just a friendly guy. He's cool. I realized even more that I do this ever since I started going back to school. I'm at LACC. I love that school, and I love the professors so much, and I noticed that I put the professors in that safe teddy bear spot, and it wasn't always that way. It was not always that way. At all. But I've realized, like, my biology professor, I was just like, oh, he loves biology, and I just find it so adorable. Like, I just put him in this, like, safe zone. And I noticed that again the past semester with my creative writing professor. And I was like, this guy just seems fun. And bonus, it's nice when you have a professor who just really loves the subject that they're teaching, and they love teaching. Just a bonus. But yeah, I notice I do that. I'm like, this person seems nice and safe. This guy is a threat, and I need to keep my guard up, basically. So if anyone else does that, let me know. Also, coming back to anger, I grew up self-harming. That was something I also did to cope, because I kind of want to talk about this in a separate video, because this is a whole misunderstood topic. I think I started cutting when I was around 12, I think. One thing I might point out, though, is I recently read Mindhunter, and that book is incredible. If you haven't picked it up, check it out if you can stomach it. But this former FBI agent is talking about when he used to profile serial killers, and I am by no means a serial killer. Yay! But he was talking about how there are a higher percentage of males who become serial killers, and these are people who grew up with abuse. These are people who had horrendous childhoods. And males tend to lash out at people, whereas women, there is a much lower percentage of female serial killers, because women tend to go inward with that anger, blaming themselves and feeling like they are horrible. Women tend to go inward and hurt themselves, and I could really relate to that. Anyway. It's a great book. PTSD. Again, this needs to be another video, but this is something I've struggled with a lot. And this is what has made it so hard to write about my experience with being sexually abused as a kid, because it's very easy for PTSD to just hit you. It feels like out of nowhere. There was one instance where I was writing about my story, because I'm trying to write a memoir. If you've written a memoir, you know how challenging it can be. I noticed, just from walking from the bedroom to the living room, I went from being in my own space, being present, being aware of where I was, to walking into the playroom of my childhood, and it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying, and I just stopped, and I couldn't breathe, and tears started forming in my eyes. Every sense comes back to you in that moment. Smell, taste, your sense of awareness, it just is jarring. It just feels confusing, and Again, this should be a separate video, but PTSD is definitely something I've experienced, and I was diagnosed when I was 17 of having PTSD due to childhood trauma, and that is something that is very difficult to confront and heal from. I've also struggled with feeling like my body isn't my own. And the next thing I should mention is sexual problems. Honestly, does this shock anyone? No? Didn't think so, but it needs to be listed here. I also have experienced high social anxiety. When there are parties. I've noticed this when my husband and I have people over even. High anxiety. And it just goes back to that not feeling safe. And I experience this more, I think, when I'm visiting family back home, which is unfortunate. Obviously, all these things I don't want to experience, but these are the things that happen. And I'm learning to heal from them. And I feel like the more I talk about my personal story, the more it also helps me, as well as it kind of helps you guys. So you guys write to me in messages and comments and stuff. I think time really has made it, I don't think easier is the right word. It has gotten easier, but I feel like that is not the correct word here. Time has definitely helped me process everything. With time, I have been able to look at what happened to me when I was younger. And instead of denying it, instead of freaking out, thinking, that didn't happen to me. Like, that used to be my reaction. And it still is sometimes when I'm writing about it or when I'm like making videos like this. But then accepting it and letting myself work through it, it's really helped. So maybe time has, in a way, made it easier, but it's also just helped me, if that makes sense. So I experience high social anxiety. It's not limited to just when I visit family in Missouri, but it's not as prominent as it used to be. It used to be a big issue, and now it's not. I also don't drink alcohol. Yay! That is a big help. I practice meditation. I try to every day. I don't, but I try. I talk with a therapist, and I also have a psychiatrist who is amazing, and my prescription is Zoloft or sertraline. These are just a few things that have helped, and I've actually talked to my therapist. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, it's been over 4 years I've talked to this therapist. She's good. She's great. It's just taken so much, again, time to just kind of work through things. And I noticed even now, like now that I'm able to talk about my experience of sexual abuse when I was little, it doesn't affect me as strongly as it used to. It used to just completely be the most painful thing. I couldn't even think about. I could not even allow myself to go there. And now it's with the help of medication, with the help of being sober and talking to a therapist and a psychiatrist and working through these issues, I've gotten so much better. I love life so much more now. I never thought I would get to this place, but I have. So it is possible. It is possible. But these are a few things that I have experienced personally. I'm sure I am leaving out other things. So definitely check out the description bar. But I hope you guys found this video helpful. Again, these are just my personal things that I have experienced. I went through this whole video and I didn't cry. If you guys look at my video from like 4 years ago, or yeah, I think it's 4 years ago, the first video where I talk about this, I cannot stop crying the whole time. And that's just not right now. I'm just gonna reflect on that for a minute. Like, this is really cool. I'm able to possibly help other people who've gone through this. It's like my voice has gotten a little stronger, and I think that's very cool. So again, I hope you guys found this video helpful. Please let me know your thoughts down below, and I hope you guys are staying safe, staying healthy, taking care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll see you guys very soon. All right, bye.